Happy Mother's Day, everybody. So glad you're here today. I want to welcome those of you that might be joining us online today as well. And I look around, I see a bunch of moms that are just beaming today because their kids came with them. So thank you all for being here today. Happy Mother's Day to all you moms. We have deep admiration and respect for you and gratitude for you. In fact, I got deep respect and admiration and gratitude for every single woman and girl who is in this church. We love you. We're glad that you're here. So let's just express that to every woman or girl in this place today. So glad you're here, whether you're a mom or not. Hey, my name is Mike, by the way, and it's so great to see you all. I've missed you. I've been trying to help a church out in Southern California, and so I haven't been able to show up as I normally do. But I was so excited when I saw Northside on my calendar today, so it's great to be back. And obviously, I am not a mom, but I am married to arguably the GOAT, the greatest mom of all time. My wife, Debbie, is amazing. And we got 3 kids, and we got 10 grandkids, and we are having so much fun. Our youngest son, Drew, has 4 kids, and his youngest is 2. And he sent me a bunch of stuff from some young dad who posts on Twitter or X or whatever they call it now, he's posing as a sarcastic 3-year-old. He calls himself @HonestToddler, and some pretty funny stuff. Check out just a few. He says this as a toddler: "I can't take you anywhere. Then why do you keep trying?" I love this one. Tonight's bedtime story was about 3 pigs struggling with repeated home invasions. Thanks for the new fear. I like this one. Getting a lecture about spinach from someone whose bones crack in 8 places every time they stand. I totally agree with this one. Don't know where my next meal is coming from, but I sincerely hope it's not Pinterest. Anybody with me on that, right? I love this one. Funny how after 10 o'clock, asking for a sip of water is on the same level as attempted murder. You'll wet the bed. Dehydrate me to save on pull-ups? Why are we so broke? I like this one. The problem with you people is that you think children are like smartphones and upgrading every 2 years is normal. Now, while it is impossible to upgrade kids, we can upgrade the way we parent them, and we can upgrade the way we treat each other and build into each other in the family. I love being a dad. It has been one of the greatest blessings of my life. I count it a privilege, wouldn't trade it for anything, but I know that you moms and dads would agree with me when I say parenting can be very, very challenging. And it doesn't matter whether you got kids in diapers or kids in grade school or you're helping them navigate the teenage years, every parent faces the same challenge. How do we, as imperfect people, provide the framework, the limits, the discipline, and the loving environment in which to raise our kids to be healthy, happy, productive, God-loving, difference-making adults? How do we give them roots so they can grow deep? And how do we give them wings so that someday they can soar on their own? It's a lifelong process, and it is not easy. Now, I need to preface all of what I'm going to say today with this. I am not an expert in the field of parenting. Debbie and I have certainly made our share of mistakes along the way, and it is simply by the grace of God that any parenting success has come our way. But I'm just telling you, not as a pastor, but as an imperfect father of 3, if you don't have God involved in the raising of your kids, if you don't hit your knees regularly and say, God, I'm trying really, really hard, but I need your help. I need your wisdom to pull this off. I'm just telling you, it's going to be a long uphill struggle for you. You got to get a perfect father involved in this process. So on this day where we're kind of focused on family, let me quickly just give you some principles that I've been learning on the job for the past 40 years now. They all have a wisdom proverb from God's book attached, and they all involve the letter D, so maybe this will make it a little bit easier for you to remember these things. The first thing is this: if you're going to give your kids wings that they'll need someday, you got to start early and give them freedom for discovery. Freedom for discovery. You know, kids are so creative, and they are so curious. God made them that way. And while it is our job to give our children safe, loving, protective boundaries, we also got to give them some room to explore and play and create and stretch their imaginations and search for what's really, really true in this life. Proverbs 15:14 says this, "A wise person is hungry for truth, while a fool feeds on trash." So we create this appropriate freedom that enables our kids to distinguish truth from trash as they search within the boundaries that we've established. We teach them, if you search for good, you will find favor. But if you search for evil, it'll find you. And kids learn that principle very quickly. In fact, kids learn everything pretty much quickly. I had my 11-year-old grandson fix my phone yesterday. Anybody with me on that? Here, I don't know how to do this, dude. I had my 2-year-old grandson in the truck yesterday as well. And he wanted to listen to Baby Shark. If you know, you know, right? Baby shark, do 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 do, baby shark, do 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 do, baby shark, do 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 do, baby shark. Baby shark, on and on and on and on and on this things go. And it wasn't enough for him just to listen to it. I had to hand my phone back to him so he could watch it. Well, the music stops after about a minute, and I swear he was ordering something on Amazon as a 2-year-old. It's just crazy how fast kids learn things and how curious they are. Some of you right now are experiencing a toddler in your house discovering how to open the cabinets for the first time, how to flush oranges down the toilet, how to bow their back in that perfect way that keeps you from getting them in that car seat, right? And kids are so observant about everything. I remember a story that Bruce Larson told one time. Being on vacation with his family. They were out in California somewhere. They went out for a hike. And they came across a sign that said naturalist camp. So being lovers of God's creation, they proceeded into this nature preserve. In actuality, it was a nudist camp. And all of a sudden, all these people, buck naked, came riding toward them on bicycles. Their 5-year-old says, "Oh man, they're not wearing helmets." I mean, kids are observant. Kids were designed to be explorers, seekers, if you will. So give them freedom for discovery. Make sure that she's got some unstructured time in her life. Balance his chores and his homework and activities with freedom to play and make believe. And instead of like searching every online store at Christmas time, just give them one of these. Do you have any idea the adventures and stories and journeys kids can go on with one of these? I know it might just look like a box. This is not just a box. This is an Indy race car. This is the Millennium Falcon fighting with Jedi warriors. This is not a box. It's an animal hospital where stuffed animals can check in and get checked out. And let them turn the couch cushions into a fort. Create a space in your home where it's okay to do glitter and glue and make stuff and messy projects, and let them color outside the lines. And by all means, let them color it. And then you hang it on the refrigerator. And you'll begin to see these little individual wings start to sprout as you give them freedom for discovery. And while you're at it, number 2, let them dance their own dance. Let them dance their own dance. I can't remember exactly when the Shine event happened here this year. We've been doing these proms for special needs students for over 20 years, and churches have been a part of. And it's always so much fun. If you've ever been to one, you know what I'm talking about. It's so much unbridled joy and love, and every single student there has their own unique way of dancing. I mean, all kids are like that. Every kid is unique. They all got their own dance. So as you give them wings, encourage them to be who God created them to be. They're not like their brother or sister. They're not like mom or dad. They're just a whole lot like them. Proverbs 22:6 says, "Train a child in the way that he or she should go, and when they are old, they will not turn from it." Some of you are familiar with that verse. The Hebrew word for the way carries the connotation of a bent. While there is just one ultimate way to train up a child toward God, there is also that unique way that he ought to go, that she ought to go. If you've got a little extroverted leader on your hands, Help her develop those leadership skills. If you've got a little introverted Lego engineer, help him develop those creative problem-solving gifts. See, there's a tendency to try to force our kids into what we want for them. I coached sports for a lot of years, and I was standing at a fence at a Little League game, standing there on the chain link fence, and there was a dad next to me watching his kid play. And I didn't know the guy, but he was frustrated at watching his son, who was obviously struggling to play. This guy turns to me as a total stranger and says, I always wanted a ball player and I got a sissy. And I just cringed. And somehow I managed to smile. And I said, no, sir, you know what you got, man. You got a wonderful, unique, bright, creative, fun-loving, sensitive kid that you are trying to turn into a ball player. Let them dance their own dance. Let them dance their own dance. All three of our kids are very different. Now, all three have similar interests, and all three of them love Jesus with all their heart. But their personality makeup is very, very unique. I chose these balloons to illustrate this. This is the one I picked for Jody, our daughter. Anybody else have a kid that's a party waiting to assemble? That was Jody growing up, man. She was vibrant. She was always upbeat. She talked all the time. She would do these plays in the house. Anybody else have kids that do plays? You got to sit through these plays that they make up, these skits they make up. Jody always had the speaking parts. She made her brothers be like a bike and a cow. She always had the lead part. That was just who she is, and she was just that kind of person. And now Jody is one of the most phenomenal teachers of God's word I've ever heard. God just made her that way. She's a verbal type of person. Derek, I chose the blue balloon for him because blue is just a dependable color. It's always there. Like the sky is blue, and that's Derek, man. He's that guy that can do anything, solve any kind of problem. He's ultra talented, but man, he's just content to be behind the scenes. He's just this kind of dependable blue kind of guy. When Derek was young, he loved playing sports, but we also knew that he had an aptitude for music. He sang all the time as a little kid. When he was 5 years old, he wanted to enter the Mercer County talent show in the little county we were living in Kentucky. He said, sure. I mean, adults and everything were in this thing. He said, yeah, I want to be in the show. And so he signed up for the show, and he sang All My Exes Live in Texas. And he won the countywide talent show. So I bought that boy a guitar, and I taught him 5 chords. I still know 5. He knows 500 now. He plays bass, he plays guitar, he plays banjo, he plays drums, he plays keys. That's just him. The gold balloon, I chose this for my youngest son, Drew. Just a quiet guy. He's just one of those guys, always as a little kid, always had a smile on his face. Just smiled nonstop, but he was just quiet, and everybody just liked being around him. He was just a quiet leader that people loved to follow, and he was really into sports, and all of his teammates just loved hanging with Drew. Well, I remember one time we were sitting at a high school graduation, and Drew and I were on the back row of this graduation. I think he was a freshman in high school at the time. And it was kind of cool to hear some of the stories and dreams of kids that were walking across the stage. You know, someone would walk across the stage, and the announcer would say, this is Todd. He plans on owning his own business someday. This is Sarah. She's planning on going to the mission field. This is Julie. She plans on going to med school and becoming a pediatrician. This is Josh. He hopes to become a member of the Supreme Court someday, and on these dreams with. So I turned to Drew, high school freshman time, eaten up with basketball. And I said, what are they going to say about you in a few years? You walk across that stage. He grinned and he said, well, they're going to say Drew Breaux has accepted a scholarship to play for the University of Kentucky, and after that he plans on a long career in the NBA. I said, no, they ain't going to say that, man. You know what they're going to say Drew Breaux turned down a scholarship offer so he could stay home and dream of beating his dad someday in the driveway, one-on-one, elbow, back and forth, and we just crack it up on the back row. I haven't been able to guard that dude since he was 14 years old. And he's still a quiet leader, and people just love to follow him. It is such a cool feeling when you see your kids realize their unique, God-given gifts and personalities and just being who God created them to be. And it's such a cool day when you get to be as old as me and you look back and your kids are your best friends. That's just the way Debbie and I feel. I'm so proud of who God called them to be. Yeah, it made me think how, parents say some stupid things, don't we? Well, we say things like that. You want a spanking? Yes. I thought you would never ask. Please, right here and do it hard, please. We say stupid things like, who do you think you are? We need to wear name tags in the house? What are you talking? And every dad has said this, don't make me pull this car over. They know we're not going to pull that car over. We got to be first on vacation and bladders could explode. We're not pulling that car over. I wondered one time out loud in the message, I wondered if Joseph ever said to Jesus when he left the back door open, boy, you born in a barn? He went, yeah, actually, you don't remember the manger thing and the whole, yeah, I was. Parents say some really stupid things. They'll say stuff like, you know what, you'll never amount to anything. You're more trouble than you're worth. All you do is screw up. Why can't you be more like your sister? Our words carry weight. Some of you know exactly what I'm talking about. You're still sitting here 20, 30, 40, 50 years later, and you can still hear those words that were said about you. So encourage your kids. Don't let words debilitate your kids. Dream with your kids. Spur them on. Say things like that. You know what? You could. You ought to give that a shot. God has so much for you in store. I'm so glad that he made you. You are going to rock this world someday. Never discourage a dream. When you say, oh, there's no way you could ever do that, that's impossible. That is toxic and disabling. Always say, you know what, that's a great dream. And God will lead you as you pursue it. Now, God may take you a totally different direction, but that dream you got, that's a great starting point because we can make our plans. We can dream our dreams. But the Lord determines our steps. There's a third piece of advice that I think our kids would give us. Trade in a dream house for a dream home. Trade in a dream house for a dream home. What I'm talking about here is atmosphere. Now, atmosphere is something that most of us guys don't understand or at least fully appreciate. For example, if you find a little hole in the wall, dive kind of restaurant that's got chairs with upholstery coming off and Formica countertops worn down and burn marks on the floor. You got a John Deere calendar from 1969 still hanging on the wall, but they got great food. You'll find that place packed at noon. And 98% of them will be men in that place. Why? Because guys don't really appreciate atmosphere. Now, when I take Debbie out for a special dinner or occasion, you know what she cares about the most? Yeah, she wants a place with great atmosphere. She wants a place with ambiance. If you have not learned this yet, the word ambiance actually comes from the ancient Greek word which means what's in your wallet. That's what ambiance means. You can look it up. And every home has its own ambiance. Every home has its own atmosphere. Now, I know this is a sweeping generalization, but it seems like to me in our American dream HGTV culture that a lot of people these days are more concerned about the architecture of their house than the atmosphere of their home. So just a real gentle reminder to all of us, it's not all about curb appeal. It's not so much about the color of the shingles on the roof as what goes on under that roof. It's not so much about the beautifully manicured lawn. What matters is whether anybody plays on it. It's not whether hardwood or carpet on the floor that matters. Anybody wrestle there? And I see people who are knocking themselves out, working long hours to maintain a standard of living so that the family can have this dream house to live in. And there's so little energy left over to build what kids really want. Because if you would ask kids to choose between a dream house and a dream home, they say, give me a dream home, hands down. It says this in Proverbs 15:17. A bowl of soup with someone you love is better than steak with someone you hate. If you're going to build a lifelong friendship with your child and give them wings to soar, I think you've got to create this atmosphere of acceptance, this ambiance of warmth and peace and security and acceptance, and keep a sense of humor when you're doing the whole thing. I heard about a mom and her 16-year-old newly licensed driver coming back from the driver's test and was successful. And so she got in the back seat and sat right behind her newly minted 16-year-old driver. And the son says, "So, you expecting me to chauffeur you around now?" She says, "Nope. I'm going to sit back here behind your seat and kick this seat the way you kicked my seat all those years." Just keep that. Laugh, tease, giggle, loosen up, shut down the laptop, put down the remote. Put down your phone and really listen. Give focused attention to your children. Be present, and be present a lot. There's a myth that floats around about parenting all the time. Quality time is better than quantity time. Here's what I've learned along the way in the last 40 years. Quality time is hard to plan. It usually happens in the middle of quantity time, lots of it. Teachable moments happen unexpectedly in the midst of just being together. You gotta be there. Did anybody see the Northern Lights the other night? Were you able to see that around here? Man, I live out kind of in the country in Kentucky, and my grandson Brooks and I were out about 11 o'clock at night. We're just snapping pictures with our iPhone. It was amazing. I've never seen anything quite like it. Breathtaking. And it made me think of a time that Debbie and I were walking down a long driveway. We lived out in the country at the time. It was really, really dark at night. Well, it's dark at night everywhere, but we didn't have any street lights, so it's really, really dark. And I noticed how bright the stars were, stars everywhere. And then I noticed an airplane with its landing lights and gear down about 10 miles away coming into the airport. And that light caught my attention. And then a searchlight swept through the sky at the airport as well. I mean, all kinds of these beautiful lights up in the sky. But then a lightning bug, a firefly, flew right in front of my nose. And my philosophical mind started churning. And I thought, you know what? I might not be the biggest, brightest, fanciest light in my kids' galaxy, but I can be the closest. So I want to get up close and often and model compassion in front of them. I want to model what it means to walk with Jesus. I want to model authenticity. I want to model generosity. If I get up close and just shine, maybe all the other lights this world has to offer won't entice them as much. And gang, you know that's our job description as Jesus followers. Just go shine. And parents, we've only got them for a little while. So get up close often and just shine. Because our kids need someone who loves them enough to point them the right direction. That's number 4, point them the right direction. Proverbs 4:11 says this, "My child, I will teach you wisdom's ways and lead you in straight paths." If you live a life guided by wisdom, you won't limp or stumble as you run. This verse is like a dad or a mom sitting down with their kids and saying, I'm going to make some mistakes, to be sure, but I'm going to do my best to be available to lead you in the right direction. I will do my best to model in front of you and point you toward a life guided by the love and the wisdom of God. That is my commitment to you. And by the way, kids, if you have a parent that is that committed to you, man, what a gift you have. I'm talking about a parent who cares enough to point you toward God, cares enough to set clear, loving boundaries for you, to check up on you, to track where you are, or wait for you till you get home. Somebody who cares enough to instill discipline in your life. Man, that's an awesome gift. Because no one has ever soared very high or lasted very long or run very straight without loving discipline in their life. Proverbs 12:24 says this, "Work hard and become a leader. Be lazy and become a slave." Like, any questions? Parents, it will really help in this giving them wings deal if you'll equip them with discipline. Discipline is like a strong work ethic and good study habits and money management and leadership skills, how to treat your body, how to treat other people, good manners, the discipline of putting the pain before the pleasure, decision-making, conflict resolution, where to go for wisdom, how to have a personal time of worship and Bible study and prayer, the discipline of solitude and gratitude and serving other people. Proverbs 5:23 says this, "Death is the reward of an undisciplined life, Your foolish decisions trap you in a dead end. Man, so many of us know the truth of that verse, don't we, in our own lives? And we greatly strengthen our kids' ability to fly when we equip them with personal discipline. And although they would not publicly admit it, there's a real sense of security when kids grow up knowing that there are limits and that there are boundaries. Because life without guardrails, that's a pretty scary thing. And moms and dads, we have been called by God to be the ones who point our kids in the right direction and set up those loving boundaries. Proverbs 19:18 says, discipline your children while they're young enough to learn. If you don't, you're helping them destroy themselves. And for every kid that's here today, check this one out, Proverbs 10:17. People who listen when they are corrected will live, but those who will not admit that they're wrong, they're in danger. So parents, set loving boundaries and do it like God does, with consistency and compassion. You know what? Praise goes a long way in the hearts of our kids. Some of you might remember the story of a lady who went out to get her newspaper. Remember newspapers? It was the paper boy would throw it out on the sidewalk. You have to walk down and go get it. Well, she opened up the door, and there was this Labrador Retriever sitting right there on her porch with her newspaper in his mouth. And she patted him on the head and took the paper and said, "Good boy." And she went in and got him a treat and gave him a treat. And then she went back inside. Well, the next day she goes out to get her paper. There's that same Labrador on her front porch with 7 newspapers on her front porch. And gang, our kids need to hear, "Good boy." Our kids need to hear us say, "That's my girl. Oh my goodness, you're so great." Basketball coaching legend John Wooden was asked how he motivated his players so effectively. He said, "I try to catch them doing something right." I try to catch them doing something right. Give your kids praise phrases like, "I never did that as well as you do it when I was your age." You know what? You get better at that every single day. The way you handled that situation, I'm telling you, it was brilliant. You know what? I love to hear you laugh. You know, you don't scare me as much now when you drive. Just praise phrases that you give them. And as you build that praise foundation, it lets your kids know that they are good, capable people. Then when you do have to correct them, they know that it's not them that you're disappointed in. It's just the behavior. One last thing. This is huge. Pray for godly discernment. Pray for godly discernment. Our kids are going to face so many crossroads, so many temptations. You think it was hard growing up when you grew up? Not even close to the culture that kids are growing up in today. And so start praying early on that God will give them this discernment that knows right from wrong and which direction to choose when they're standing at a crossroad. Proverbs 3, verse 21 says, "My son, preserve sound judgment and discernment. Do not let them out of your sight. They will be life to you. For the Lord will be your confidence and will keep your foot from being snared." I'm telling you, discernment is a great gift. It's that godly prompting that speaks on the inside of you. Don't go down that street. Don't get in that car. Don't fall for that guy. You stay away from that party. Don't respond to that post. Don't listen to them. They're feeding you a line. Discernment is a gift from God, and every single kid ought to have it. So moms and dads, you implant God's word in their heart. You pray with them and for them as they grow up. You talk about situations ahead of time. You stress to them the value of discernment, and you say, "There are many things I pray for you, but most of all, I pray that you would get to know Jesus Christ and find the wisdom of God." He has certainly honored that for our daughter, Jody. Some of you have heard me talk about Jody's high school journey, how she got off track and started to go down some pretty dark and dangerous roads. Just kind of was walking away from God. Make a long story short, she did a 180 and she came back to God. And she ended up going to Haiti for a year, working in a medical mission orphanage there. It was life-changing for her. But while she was in Haiti, we were really missing her and couldn't communicate with her much. So Debbie got out the baby books, as moms often do, and she's looking through Jody's baby book. And we found a prayer that Debbie wrote when she was like, I don't know how she was, 21 years old, something like that. Debbie has been praying for godly discernment in Jody's life since she was born. The very first prayer recorded in Jody's baby book was a prayer for discernment. This is what Debbie wrote. God, I pray for our new little girl, that as she grows to love you, she'll be able to discern what's right and wrong, what's good and evil, what's important and what's not, what are earthly treasures and what are eternal ones. And today, our daughter possesses that gift. She has learned how priceless it is, and God has caused her to soar on wings like an eagle. Mary Corzon writes from the perspective of her kids, when you thought I wasn't looking, you hung my first painting on the refrigerator door, and I wanted to paint another one. When you thought I wasn't looking, you fed a stray cat, and I thought it was a good idea to be kind to animals. When you thought I wasn't looking, you baked a birthday cake just for me, and I learned that little things were special. When you thought I wasn't looking, you said a prayer, and I believed that there was a God that I could always talk to. When you thought I wasn't looking, you kissed me goodnight, and I felt like the whole world was right. When you thought I wasn't looking, I saw tears come from your eyes, and I learned that sometimes things hurt, and it's all right to cry. When you thought I wasn't looking, you smiled, and it made me want to look that pretty too. When you thought I wasn't looking, you cared, and I wanted to be everything I could be. When you thought I wasn't looking, I looked, and I wanted to say thanks for all those things you did when you thought I wasn't looking. You want to give your kids wings? I mean, really give wings so they can soar through life? Give them freedom for discovery. Let them dance their own dance. Trade in the dream house for a dream home. Point in the right direction. Pray for godly discernment. And then just let them go. And let God, the perfect Heavenly Father, enable them to soar like wings of an eagle. Let's pray together. Father, thank you for the way you build into our lives. Thank you for every mom in this place today, every woman in this place today, every man, every dad in this place today. God, you've given us those of us that are parents, such a huge responsibility, and we just need your help. And we just want to pause today and say that again. God, I pray for every grandparent in this room, and I know what it's like to want to even build into their lives and be a part of their lives. And God, just give us energy and wisdom. And God, above all, just help us just shine in front of people, no matter where we go, especially in front of our kids. And Father, thank you for what you're going to do in their lives. And I pray all this in Jesus' name. Amen. Hey, if you had prayer needs today, just stay seated. We'll find you. A happy Mother's Day, everybody. Ladies, don't forget your flowers on the way out. See you next weekend.